Hello, my amazing audience and subscribers. Welcome to the final part of Let's Love Again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Now let's dive in. The doors of the safe house slid open just as the morning sunlight spilled across the forest canopy. The air outside was cool and quiet, but inside Liang Wei's chest a storm brewed. He stood near the entrance, arms folded tightly across his chest, dark eyes focused on the gravel path. Liang Jun had called half an hour ago, his voice strained, breathless, and told him he was bringing someone. Now the familiar black jeep rolled to a halt in front of the villa. Wei stepped forward just as Jun stepped out from the driver's seat, his expression grave. Without a word, Jun moved to the back of the jeep and opened the door. Zhao Lifan emerged slowly. Her hair was messy, her face pale and streaked with dried tears. Behind Wei, Mei emerged onto the porch, followed closely by Claudia in her wheelchair. Her eyes widened the moment she saw Lifan. Wei's gaze sharpened when he noticed the blood on Jun's sleeve, the way Lifan was trembling. "What happened?" he asked as they ushered them both into the villa. They gathered in the living room. The soft natural light from the forest outside contrasted the tension that cloaked the room like fog. Claudia sat silently next to Mei. Lifan collapsed onto the couch, emotionally and physically drained. Jun remained beside her. He was the first to speak. "Her father killed her mother this morning," Jun said, his voice clipped. "And then tried to kill her as well." Wei's jaw tensed. His eyes flicked to Lifan, who nodded through fresh tears. Jun continued. "And it wasn't just her. Our father sent men after me too." Wei was silent for a beat, but the quiet fury in his eyes spoke volumes. Then, Lifan reached into her coat pocket with trembling fingers. She pulled out a small silver pen drive and handed it to Wei. "My mother gave this to me last night, before my father killed her," she whispered. "She said it holds everything. Evidence of Zhao Minghua's crimes. Even the video of him killing his own brother." Claudia gasped softly. Wei took the pen drive slowly, staring at it like it was a loaded weapon. And then his phone buzzed. He answered immediately. "Sir," Zhen's voice came through, rapid, urgent. "Turn on the TV now. It's your father. He's holding a press conference." Wei turned to Mei. "Pass me the remote." Mei handed it over, and he flicked on the widescreen TV. Everyone fell silent. Breaking news from the headquarters of Liang Conglomerate, a news anchor announced. "Chairman Liang Rongxing has just made a shocking declaration. Let's go live." The screen cut to Rongxing at the podium. Camera flashes lit the room like lightning. Journalists called his name from every direction. He raised one hand and began speaking. "From this moment forward, Liang Wei and Liang Jun are no longer affiliated with Liang Conglomerate," he said with chilling finality. "Nor are they my sons." Gasps echoed from the press corps. He turned slightly, and a tall, sharply dressed young man in a tailored black suit stepped beside him. "This is my son, Liang Tianhao," Rongxing continued, "the rightful heir and new CEO of Liang Conglomerate." The safe house fell into dead silence. Wei's knuckles whitened around the remote. Mei covered her mouth. Claudia blinked in disbelief. "Since when did your father have another son?" Mei asked. But neither Wei nor Jun knew. Then Rongxing hit another blow. He pressed a button on the podium. A giant screen behind him lit up, showing grainy footage. Two men, wearing masks but built strikingly like Liang Wei and Liang Jun, executing two men in a private office. Jun looked shocked. "So, since he couldn't kill us, he's framing us." Wei gritted his teeth. "He just painted us as murderers." He turned off the TV with a click, the silence that followed heavy with purpose. Wei's face was unreadable, but his voice was ice as he pulled out his phone and dialed Jun again. "Jun, have you compiled every trace of evidence my father thought he erased?" Jun replied, "Yes, sir. Phone logs, offshore transactions, bribery records, everything." Wei nodded. "Good. And the two men who impersonated us? Did our men capture them?" "They were intercepted after sending the video," Jun confirmed. "They're being held at our safe facility now." A small, grim smile played on Wei's lips. "Good. A pen drive will be sent to you. It holds evidence against Zhao Minghua." Jun leaned in toward the receiver. "Jun, once the drive arrives, combine it with the Liang files. Add those two assassins as living proof. And send it all to Detective Han." Jun paused. "Detective Han, the one who tried to take down your father years ago?" "Yes," Jun said firmly. "Back then, he didn't have enough to keep him locked away. This time, he'll have more than enough." Jun replied, "Understood." The call ended. Claudia looked up at Wei, her voice soft. "Do you trust him?" "This detective." Wei nodded. "Han is the only one who ever went up against my father, even when it nearly cost him everything. He's been waiting for this day." Zhao Lifan sat quietly, the shadows under her eyes deep, but her voice was clear. I want justice, she said. For my mother. For me. For all the people they destroyed and silenced. June took her hand gently, locking eyes with her. We'll get it. That evening, the air in Shanghai was thick with smoke and secrets. Detective Han sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the city humming faintly beyond his windows. A cup of lukewarm tea sat forgotten on the table beside stacks of aging case files, files he hadn't touched in years. Those files belonged to Liang Rongxing and Zhao Minghua, names that once echoed through police halls like thunder. Too big to pursue, too powerful to question. He had dared once, and they'd buried him for it. Labeled him obsessed, unstable, disgraced, forced him into quiet, early retirement. But something had never settled right. He hadn't missed something. Someone had buried it. Then a knock sounded on his door. Han's instincts sharpened. He moved to the side drawer, silently drawing his handgun. His body tensed with practiced silence as he peered through the peephole. A young man stood there in a dark coat. He was impeccably dressed and looked calm as well. One of his hands held a briefcase, and the other was tucked neatly into his pockets, his presence composed, too composed. Knock. Knock. Detective Han, the man said calmly. My name is Zhen. I work under Liang Wei. I need 5 minutes. It's about Liang Rongxing and Zhao Minghua. Han stiffened. That combination of names hadn't been uttered together in nearly a decade. Not publicly. He opened the door halfway, bracing it with his shoulder. I'm not interested in Liang family lies, Han said, eyes sharp. You people think you're gods. Jin didn't blink. What if I told you the evidence I hold can bring all of them down? Rongxing, Minghua, and every shell they've built. Han's skepticism cracked. The fire that once lit his career flickered back to life. He stepped aside. You have 5 minutes. Zhen entered without hesitation and placed a sleek metal briefcase on the table. Everything is in here, he said. Financial trails, offshore accounts, witness statements, assassination footage, even audio of internal meetings. But more importantly, he pulled out a flash drive and laid it on top. This is from Zhao Lifan. The footage on this drive includes the moment Zhao Minghua murdered his own brother, Lifan's uncle. Han's face froze. He told the press it was a heart attack. Jin nodded. It wasn't. Han sat slowly, plugging the flash drive into his laptop. His eyes scanned the file names, his breath catching. Jin reached into the case again and pulled out another folder. And this, he said, laying down crisp stills from the press conference footage, is the original version of what Rongxing showed the world today. Han looked up. You mean the murder tape, the one that shows Liang Wei and Liang Jun killing the 2 shareholders? Jin nodded grimly. It wasn't them. The real culprits were hired mercenaries. Their builds, heights, facial bone structures, all eerily close to the Liang brothers. But it was all staged, and we caught the real shooters. Han leaned forward, tension tight in his jaw. Where are they? In secure custody. They've confessed, on record. Their full testimonies are also in the drive. For a long moment, Han said nothing. His eyes slowly tracked across the screen. Bank ledgers, wire transfers, photographs, phone transcripts, and names he hadn't dared write again in years, and that was Liang Rongxing. Zhao Minghua. Confirmed. Documented. Undeniable. All these years, Han whispered. I wasn't wrong. Just outmatched. He stood, walking to the window. The streetlights blinked below, casting long shadows into the alley. His mind raced, not just with the weight of the evidence, but with the reality of what this meant. Rongxing could erase men with a whisper. He could fabricate videos, bribe courts, and vanish people as if they never existed. And Zhao Minghua? He had the power to plant corpses, fake autopsies, and wipe entire identities from state records. But this time, Han had proof. He turned back to Zhen, eyes hard. I'll need a few hours. There's someone left at the prosecutor's office I trust. Zhen nodded. That's all we need. Han exhaled. If I go down this path again, there's no turning back. Zhen looked him square in the eye. Neither do we. The morning sun rose over Shanghai, but peace was far from the hearts of its people. Every major news outlet buzzed with the same headline. Wanted. Liang Wei and Liang Jun, suspected murderers on the run. Public urged to report sightings. Reward 5 million yen. Photos of Liang Wei and Liang Jun flashed across every screen. Phones, televisions, billboards, taxi displays. Their names were dragged through the mud with rehearsed venom. Exactly what Liang Rongxing wanted. Meanwhile, inside a quiet government building, Detective Han strode down a long corridor lined with frosted glass and institutional silence. Destination: Prosecutor Kim's office. Kim, sharp-eyed and silver-haired, had once stood tall in the justice system until his pursuit of Liang Rongxing and Zhao Minghua got him buried in desk work. Han didn't knock. He pushed open the door. Kim looked up, startled. Han! Without a word, Han dropped a thick folder on his desk. Kim opened it and froze. Bank transfers, hidden ledgers, surveillance stills, forged documents, audio files, evidence spanning years. Then Han plugged in the flash drive. On screen, grainy video footage of Zhao Minghua murdering his brother. Kim leaned forward, stunned. Then another file, the real footage of the shareholder murders. Not Liang Wei and June, but two look-alike mercenaries. Kim stood abruptly. Where did you get this? Han's voice was steady. From the inside. Liang Wei. Liang Jun Zhao Lifan. They're done being pawns. They gave me everything. For a long moment, silence settled like dust. Then Kim, once buried under pressure, smiled slowly. Then we finally have them. Both of them. They worked through the next few hours, verifying files, drafting arrest warrants, alerting trusted officers. Timing was everything. Just past noon, Han's phone rang. It was Wei. Han stepped aside and answered. Wei's voice was low. Sharp. Zhao Minghua is leaving the country this afternoon. We tracked his escape route. Han nodded. We'll alert immigration. Wei hesitated. And Rongsheng? Han looked out the window. It's time. Meet me in an hour. 1 hour later at the Liang conglomerate headquarters, a convoy of black police vehicles pulled into the private parking lot. No press. No warning. Inside the glittering skyscraper, the entire building shifted when Liang Wei and Liang Jun stepped out of the elevator, flanked by Detective Han and 4 armed officers. Gasps filled the air. Whispers swept like wildfire. Aren't they wanted? How are they walking in like that? What's going on? Neither Wei nor Jun spoke. They walked with quiet, unshakable purpose. They headed straight for the executive floor. Inside the CEO's office, Liang Rongsheng lounged behind his desk, his fingers steepled, mid-conversation with his newly appointed heir, Liang Tianhao. The double doors burst open. Rongsheng stood at once. You! His voice exploded like thunder. How are they not in prison? Detective Han, what is the meaning of this? Han held up his badge, calm and firm. Chairman Liang Rongsheng, you are under arrest for conspiracy to murder, obstruction of justice, corporate fraud, money laundering, and the attempted framing of your sons for homicide. Rongsheng's face paled, just slightly. Tianhao stood in alarm. You can't just, the young man protested. Han silenced him with a cold stare. You're not being arrested, so I suggest you sit down and shut up. Jun's voice cut through next, low and sharp. We have the real footage. The real murderers. Your plan's dead. Rongsheng hissed. When did you start gathering all this? Wei took a step forward. After Mother's funeral. He turned briefly to Tianhao. So this is the reason you stopped calling us family. Then back to Rongsheng as he spoke. You underestimated us, father. Just like you underestimated every life you crushed. Han signaled. 2 officers moved in. You will come with us. Rongsheng's mask cracked. You fools, he spat. You're destroying the empire that made you. Do you think anyone will follow you now? Jun leaned close. We don't want your empire. Let your favorite son inherit it. Rongsheng's bitter laugh was hollow. You'll regret this. Wei met his gaze without flinching. No, we won't. Meanwhile, at a private terminal of Hangzhou Airport, Zhao Minghua, dressed in black, stood beside his private jet. His assistant handed him a forged passport. You'll be gone in 10 minutes, the assistant whispered. But just as Minghua stepped toward the stairs, Zhao Minghua, he turned. 3 officers rushed forward. At their lead, Han's longtime partner raised his badge. You are under arrest for the murder of Zhao Run, the murder of your brother, obstruction of justice, and attempted murder of Zhao Lifan. Minghua's eyes went wide. He ran, but it was too late. Within seconds, they tackled him to the tarmac. Handcuffed. Exposed. Defeated. Back at Liang conglomerate. As Liang Rongsheng was let out in cuffs, the media, tipped off anonymously, swarmed the entrance. Chairman Liang. Is it true? What about the murder charges? Is Liang Wei and his brother innocent? Cameras flashed. Reporters screamed. The headlines had changed. Breaking news. Liang Rongsheng arrested for conspiracy and corporate crimes. Zhao Minghua captured at Hangzhou Airport. Public opinion shifted like a landslide. The foundation of their power began to crack. Inside, stunned employees watched as the titan they once feared was dragged away. Wei stood still, staring at the glass walls his father once called his crown. This was the last time he'd walk these halls. Without a word, he turned his back and walked out. As for Tianhao, he sat slumped in the CEO's chair, stunned, broken. The illusion of the invincible father shattered before his very eyes. And as for the empire, its blood-soaked crown no longer gleamed. 2 weeks had passed since Shanghai bore witness to the downfall of 2 of the country's most powerful men. In a private courtroom packed with journalists, legal elites, and former business partners, the once feared Liang Rongsheng and Zhao Minghua stood trial. For decades, they had ruled from the shadows, pulling strings, forging documents, silencing truth with power. But now the curtain had fallen. Liang Rongxing was sentenced to 50 years in prison for conspiracy, corporate fraud, and the attempted framing of his sons. Zhao Minghua received life imprisonment without parole for the murder of his wife and brother, the attempted murder of his daughter, and a long list of white-collar crimes. As they were led away in cuffs, there was no applause. Only silence. And this type of silence comes when justice is finally served. But beyond the courtrooms and flashing headlines, new foundations were being laid, not of lies or ambition, but of healing and purpose. A month later, the city buzzed with a surprising headline. Liang Wei returns with Claudia as partner, launches Earth Designs, a new force in sustainable architecture, heritage renovations, and luxury interior design. Wei had walked away from the empire his father built on corruption. But he hadn't walked away from the future. Instead, he built something beautiful from the ruins. Earth Designs, a company dedicated to restoring broken spaces, reviving forgotten homes, and reimagining cities with soul. It wasn't about sky-high profits. It was about meaning. Claudia stood beside him, not just a survivor, but a co-creator. A visionary in design and decor, she handled their restoration projects with grace and depth. Every brush of color, every curve of stone, every revived wall whispered her story. And the world noticed. Within a year, Earth became the most sought-after firm in China. Not just because of what they built, but because of why they built. And Claudia, once wheeled into rooms with a quiet stare, now walked. Each step was slow, deliberate, hard-earned through months of therapy. But each one was hers. She didn't just reclaim her life. She redesigned it. As for Liang Jun and Zhao Lifan, they found peace away from the spotlight. That spring, they visited a quiet cemetery nestled outside Hangzhou, where cherry blossoms swayed in the breeze like the wings of resting souls. Before a modest headstone that read, Zhao Ren, beloved mother, brave woman, never forgotten. Lifan knelt, placing a single white rose. Her fingers brushed over the name as if trying to feel the warmth that once was. She deserved better, she said softly. June stepped beside her, taking her hand. You're giving her better now, he murmured. She lives through your strength. That day, as they walked away hand in hand, there was no more fear, no more hiding. As for Liang Tianhao, the man Rongxing had once crowned heir, after the exposure of Rongxing's crimes and the inevitable bankruptcy of Liang conglomerate, Tianhao vanished. He left Shanghai, gone from the headlines, gone from relevance, and also gone from memory. And no one looked for him. 1 year later, the moon hung high over a quiet lake. The waters shimmered under its light like silver glass. On a wooden bridge at the lake's edge stood Liang Wei, a small ring box hidden in his coat pocket. This was where it all began, 5 years ago, when he had first confessed his love to Claudia, and she had walked away. Claudia's steps were slow, careful, but confident. She smiled when she reached him. Why did you bring me all the way out here? She teased gently. Wei chuckled, eyes twinkling. You'll see. Then, just as a breeze swept across the lake, he turned to her and dropped to one knee. Claudia froze, her hand rising to her chest. Wei looked up at her, heart in his eyes. Claudia, I confessed my love for you 5 years ago on this very bridge. You left me then, and I waited because I knew I'd never stop loving you. Today, I stand on that same confession, but this time, I'm asking, will you marry me? Her eyes filled instantly. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course yes. Wei rose and kissed her, hard, deep, and full of every unsaid word from the years they had lost. Then he pulled her into an embrace, holding her as if letting go wasn't an option anymore. Because it wasn't. And as for June and Lifan? Well, those two were halfway across the world, on a quiet island away from everyone, holding hands, dancing by firelight on the beach, living a love story all their own. Thank you for watching the Let's Love Again series. I hope the story touched your heart. Don't forget to subscribe to Folktales podcast here for more unforgettable stories. See you in the next one.